Vietnam Crypto Insights. It's your host with the most, Terrence, longtime crypto investor, 3 years in Vietnam, the home of the brave in Vietnam. Welcome back. If it's your first time, hello, how are you? As I said, I'm Terrence, and we talk about everything crypto, blockchain. We do some deep dives on tokens, projects, even founders. So buckle up and enjoy. We've got some really big news here. As everyone's just been paying attention, unless you've been under a rock the past week, we've hit 2 different Bitcoin highs in 1 week, multiple days. It's just fantastic. I know a lot of people are wondering, if you're new to crypto, like what is going on? Why is Bitcoin going up? Bitcoin, like I said, has hit 118,000 one day. Next day, a couple of days later, it hit 123,000, sort of cooled off. The total market cap of crypto is rapidly approaching $4 trillion once again. And you know what's interesting about this week? One of my favorites, Ethereum, has showed up in a Lambo, stole the DJ booth, and said, y'all mind if I take over? Now, you're probably wondering why that's happening. Couple reasons. Bit Digital, the big fund, $173 million that they've swiped from their Bitcoin treasury, and they put all of it in ETH. Now, that's wild, isn't it? Yeah. That's not just a trade. That's kind of like a statement. What's going to happen? BlackRock, they did the same thing, so to speak. They didn't put everything in Ethereum, but you know what? They pivoted. And just when you thought Larry Fink was a Bitcoin fanboy, Bitcoin maximalist, no, fam. BlackRock's out here whispering sweet nothings to Ethereum right now. It's kind of like that meme where you see that guy with the girl and he's looking back at the other one. That's exactly what Larry Fink is doing right now with the whole Bitcoin Ethereum thing. And now you guys remember what happened when BlackRock launched IBIT about 1.5 years ago. BTC went full bananas. It went from under 40,000 to over 70,000 within a span of a couple months. All the other funds and all the other financial institutions aped in. I think there's about 600 financial institutions that aped into the various Bitcoin ETFs over about a 2 or 3 month span. And, we rocketed up from there. And I think we're probably about 300% from that point about 18, 19 months ago for Bitcoin, about 300% up. So you don't think that Ethereum is going to do the same thing? Then you might not be watching what I'm watching. Now, Kathy Wood's probably out here predicting that ETH is not going to do anything, but she's never right, except for sometimes she's right on crypto. Now, some random crypto Twitters are screaming that 14,000. Me, I did the same thing, but you know what? I'm just sitting here eating my popcorn. I don't know anything, but you know what? If BlackRock's involved, let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if ETH is going to go to the moon. Now, something that's happening on the legal standpoint, or the vantage point, I should say, the U.S. House says, hell no to CBDCs. If you don't know what a CBDC is, central bank digital currency is what the government are trying to do to make sure they control all the digital currencies. But you know what? They kind of snagged that up. And that's good. But you know what? Good old American politics, where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and somehow crypto gets caught in the middle. And the House just passed 2 bills, and it's a mixed bag. We got the With the whole anti-CBDC vibes, there was a string of legislators that said, no, we're not going to put this CBDC in our bill. And they basically said, Feds, you can just stay the hell out of the way from our wallets and keep your creepy digital dollar. No CBDC for you. And, I get it. The government still wants control. And I'm sure the banks are really pushing for that. So, did they forget that cash is dying, especially the dollar? Well, whether the dollar's going up or down, one thing's for sure. With the Genuis Act, Clarity Act, Anti-CBDC Act, all three of these passing the U.S. House, and I think they're back on the way to the Senate, maybe to King Trump himself. The Clarity Act is going to give clarity. Who handles what? The CFTC or the SEC? Who's handling what with crypto? That's been a big problem before. The Genuis Act regulates stable coins and who handles stable coins. And then, of course, the Anti-CBDC Act. With those three, we're talking, if all three of these pass, we're talking a flood of Wall Street money coming in just like the monsoon season here in the southern part of Vietnam. It's going to be a game changer, but will they pass? Will they get the stamp of approval from the rest of Congress and King Trump? We don't know. But, if it happens, buckle up, because we could see the mother of all bull cycles. And, one of the things that's kind of been holding things up here the past several months is the Trump tariffs, and he seems to want to think he's an economist, wanted to fire the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, talked about it quite a bit, says he doesn't know what he's doing. They've been saying that inflation has to be under control before they start lowering rates. This is something that's been said repeatedly by the Fed and Jerome Powell. Well, you know what? Inflation, it's back. And, those tariffs are not helping. When you slap a 30% tariff on the EU one day, 40% tariff on Vietnam another day, and I think it was up to 46%. I think they negotiated down to 20%. It doesn't bode well for the U.S. market because, Walmart gets about 60% of its goods from China. You slap a tariff on China, guess what? Everybody, I don't care what Trump says, everybody in the U.S. is going to pay. Those people in the U.S., you got to buckle up because, if those tariffs start hitting China, I think there was a little bit of reprieve, but, Walmart's already been crying about this. I think they made a beeline to the White House shortly after that was announced several months ago. But, with all these tariffs, we have to talk about this stuff because everything affects crypto, it seems. It's like if the tariffs make the inflation go too high, we might not get those rate cuts. But Jerome Powell was probably somewhere screaming into a pillow like, I was close to cutting these rates, but Donald, maybe we're just stuck with high rates longer. So, who knows how that's going to play out, but there's a lot of factors with crypto. You can't look at just one thing. But one thing that will resonate well with China is if they do this 1.5 trillion yen stimulus, as they've been saying. China's economy has been kind of slow, not only because of tariffs, but just because it's been slow. There's been a lot of things going on. It's been slower than hungover turtle. And so what's their solution is do some more stimulus. 1.5 trillion yen or about $260 billion. But, will that work? Or will that just make things in the economy and the crypto world weirder? Well, from the crypto standpoint, more liquidity usually means more risk taking. could some of these tariffs or some of this inflation rather, could that make some of this cash, this stimulus leak into the economy? Maybe. Or maybe it just props up their declining real estate market. Either way, when China sneezes, the world has to catch a cold because everybody's buying from China. And what does all this mean? Well, it means you better hold your bags and hold on tight because the next 4 to 6 months is going to be really volatile. We're going to see a lot of swings up. We might see some vicious swings down, but we're on that peak. We're on that cusp of hitting that peak of the 4-year cycle, which usually hits about November to January every 4 years. And like I said, we've got about another 4 to 6 months. So be careful out there. And, if you're a trader, be doubly careful out there because it's going to be wild because there's a lot of things going on. Can't just look at the charts, man. I've learned the hard way with the macroeconomic picture. You have to take that into consideration. But anyway, make sure if you have a suggestion or if you think ETH is going to hit 14,000, make a comment and I'll send you something. Make sure you're in Vietnam though, because I don't know if I'm going to send this overseas. Got something for you. If you think Bitcoin is going to hit 240,000, that was my prediction several months ago. I think we're still on that path. It's a 2x from here, so we shall see. But anyway, if you've liked the content, make sure you subscribe and definitely share this with a friend. Give us a like, thumbs up, and I'll keep bringing this content to you. Concise, action-packed, macroeconomic picture in crypto. And make sure you share this with a friend. And thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time. And always, as I always say, keep it coffee and crypto. I'll see you next week.